Welcome to my madness, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new G.I. Joe Classified's Storm Shadow. Of course, this is trying to mimic and update the original vintage Storm Shadow version 2 with his more camouflaged, hooded look once he joined the G.I. Joes. We're going to take a look at this and see if this figure's any good. Alright, so let's look at accessories here, and on him, he pretty much has every accessory that he comes with outside of, he does come with a couple of extra sets of hands, but of course, he's got his backpack there, he's got his bow, he does come with the tri-claws there that are kind of an original staple from back in the vintage days of the 1980s Storm Shadow, and going into the 90s, several other ninja characters would come with these claws. He's also got his sheaths with his two swords there, he's got a rope that comes across his chest, a guard piece, an archer's guard piece there, and then of course he has this whole belt piece with the flaps that come down and the rope and the shurikens and everything else that come down there. Lots of accessories, lots of things going on with him, and in fact, that's kind of one of my issues with this, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Alright, so as far as articulation goes, you guys know the drill, basic G.I. Joe classified stuff, not much to go into this one, but I will say that if you are going to leave this belt piece on with these flaps that come down over his legs, that is going to restrict movement there in the hips quite a bit. Outside of that, pretty standard stuff, but let's look at the paint and the sculpt here. It looks pretty damn good, I gotta be honest. This is very evocative of the original figure from back in the day, although to go more into what we were talking about a minute ago, it's just a little too much. There's too much going on here. In my opinion, the costume does need to be simplified. While I dig the white with the cross hatching there for the kind of white camo, I do think the boots look fantastic. Head sculpt looks good, although you cannot remove the hood. It is glued down. I think other than that, there's just too much going on here. This belt is way too busy. In addition to having rope strung across the chest, his archer's guard strung across the chest, all the weapons that he comes with. As you can see, I removed the backpack, and I don't think you're going to want to have this figure just carrying all his stuff, because it's honestly just a little too much, and this is why you've been seeing these figures be modified quite a bit online, is because a lot of people I think the same thing. There's just kind of too much going on with him. However, the cool thing about it is most of these things can simply be removed if you don't like the look or it looks too busy for you. So there are ways to kind of tone him down a little bit and have him look a little bit more like the classic V2 version of Storm Shadow we all know and love. Alright, so for a little comparison here, we have him up against the quote-unquote original version of Storm Shadow, although this was not the first figure to come out in the G.I. Joe Classifieds line. This, of course, is the look most of us know Storm Shadow as having. And then, of course, on the right, we've got my custom kit bashed Snake Eyes there, made from a Marvel Legends figure. And I think that this version of Storm Shadow, while a little bit busy, does stack up really, really well. And in fact, one thing that I actually like about this version a little bit more than this previous version is that this one uses a pure white instead of like this one having a bit of an eggshell or beige tint to it. I prefer the pure white of this new one. And for a quick head swap here, we've got the unmasked Snake Eyes head from the G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes figure, just to kind of see what Storm Shadow would look like under that mask. This head to me does sit a little bit low, but all in all, I think it looks pretty good. And for one more head swap from the same line, G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes, we have the unmasked Storm Shadow head, which I think sits just about right. And if you were looking for a good alternative, an unmasked version of Storm Shadow on this body, this might be the right choice for you. Alright, so let's talk about price here real quick. At $25, is this figure worth it? And I think, yeah, it definitely is. Of course, that may just be me. I am a huge Storm Shadow fan. He is by far my favorite G.I. Joe character ever, and I have a very extensive collection of Storm Shadow figures, so of course I'm going to love it. But I think if you collect G.I. Joe Classifieds, you will too. Now, of course, as I said, there's a lot going on with this figure, but fortunately, most of the stuff that kind of makes him a little bit busy looking can be removed to give you more of a classic look, and for that alone, I think it's definitely worth it.